And I know that more people jumping on. But everybody, I just want to say hello and welcome. I am so blessed and excited to get to share the platform this evening with one of my dear friends. And we are going to share a little bit about what our professional stories are, not because we need to lend any credibility to this incredible product line that Arbonne has just come out with, known really as a movement in women's health, a line called Her Core. And particularly tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about a product called Menopause Support. So if you're a client and you're thinking this is going to be a sales pitch, I can promise you it is not designed to be a sales pitch as much as an informational spotlight on a topic that Carleeta and I are both passionate about because one, we are women. Two, we are raising daughters. And three, we are in or past menopause. And we really do believe that this conversation has not been happening enough or loud enough or with enough truth and clarity. We also both come to you with a background in medicine. So that's not the place where we need to hold on to any credibility, but we will lean into that just a little bit because there is an incredible and important story that we feel like we have to tell you if we're going to do the Girlfriend's Guide to Menopause, which is what I name all of my talks, the Girlfriend's Guide to fill in the blank, fasting or ketogenesis or carnivore or paleo. And tonight is the Girlfriend's Guide to Menopause because we want to share with you in a very brief, but we hope to have it be both informative and inspirational, a story about women's health that just isn't being told enough and ways that we can help you manage or move through menopause if you're in this stage of life. We pray all of y'all get there, right? Because the alternative of not getting to menopause is actually worse than menopause, okay? So we want y'all to get there, but we want you to also get through it well. And Carleeta and my experience in walking through menopause, I think we both can comfortably say we got through it, but we were not well. So Carleeta will share more of that with you in a moment. But I will quickly introduce myself and then pass it over to her. And then I'm going to take the science side of this story. But my name is Mo Boeger. I'm an Arbonne consultant, a proud independent consultant, and a brand ambassador with this company for almost 17 years. And I'm a neuroscientist by training. So tonight I get to talk to you about estrogen and the brain. And I get to talk to you about one of the things I'm really excited about, which is Arbonne's new launch of the Her Core line, which is designed not as a phytoestrogen, but as an estrogen, let's say, enhancement tool. I'll explain all of that in just a moment to help you get through a season of life that is remarkable and remarkably wild. So, Carleeta, I'm going to pass it over to you to do your intro, babe.
Well, hi everyone. I am so excited to be here with all of you and to share my experience. My background is pediatric advanced practice nurse. And so I tell everybody, like, in medicine, you have a specialty. And yes, we learn a little bit about everything when you're in school, but when you get out, you really focus on the specialty that you're in. And so estrogen was not my specialty, which is where I claim, innocence on how I reacted and responded to what was going on with my body. But I am I will say equally a nerd because I love facts. I know stories sell, facts tell whenever we're talking about what is going on in our life and with products that we use and believe in. But I will tell you, I always love to know what my experience is, but then I always message my dear friend Mo and go, okay, this is my experience, but she is the dig in research girl. And I know she's going to go in and read all the double blind studies and all the things that I know we need to do, but I don't really like to do because I just want to be out here with my people. And her brain, because she's a neuroscientist, does that. And so I just asked her, I said, have you looked into these products? Because I will tell you, I am Arbonne bread and brand full through and through. Like, I mean, if Arbonne says that this is what it's going to do, I believe them. But you guys, there's always something special about when you use a product personally and you start to believe it because you see it and experience it for yourself. And so whenever I got to hear about Arbonne's products at our conference this year in Vegas in June, they were telling us all the things that it was going to do and how it was formulated. And I was thinking, gosh, that's amazing, but how? And because I thought I understood enough about estrogen. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna believe him because I know Arbonne doesn't say it if it's not true. And I came out of there and I immediately started using all the products that I could possibly use to help me experience the benefits of what these products will do for us that Arbonne created for us. And I started seeing some wild um, responses from myself. And I know everybody's body is different, and my experience is my experience, and not everybody may respond or react like I do. But I will tell you in a little bit why I am so excited and why I then messaged my friend Mo and said, hello, have you studied this? Because I would love to know from your point of view how this is doing everything that it's doing. And she was like, no, not really. And I said, well, I'm a nurse, but I'm pediatric, and I would love to know what you think. And she goes, I'll do my research and then I'll get back with you. And she did. And then we have just come up with doing some of these calls for people because you guys, I feel like the world needs to know both the facts about these supplements that Arbonne has come up with and the testimonies, because we need both to share and to be confident and excited about what it is we have to share with our world. So I think I'll turn that back to Mo and let her do the scientific part of it, and then I will do, and if that's what you want, Mo, and then I will do the next part.
Awesome. Well, you guys, I'm so grateful. Thank you, Carlita. I love partnering with you. And I'm just so grateful for so many faces who are on. So if you're an Arbonne consultant, welcome. I know that you're going to learn something tonight that is actually going to make you a better ambassador for the brand. If you're a client or a potential client, you're really my focus tonight. I want to teach you, like I said, the girlfriend's guide to menopause. And I am going to kind of breeze through this because I also say the most precious comrade, like the biggest currency for me, like the thing I spend the most and I'm also most stingy with, is my time. And I know y'all are stingy with your time too because it is such a precious resource. So we really only want to keep you for about 30 minutes and we want this to be impactful. So I kind of have to breeze through the science, and I made some notes here to keep myself on track because you guys, when you get the brainy boss lady talking, especially about the brain, she can talk for hours. Okay, that's where you can find me on Instagram, is the brainy boss lady. But you guys, I have to tell you, I have been geeking out on estrogen and brain health my entire career because one of the things I know about estrogen and this thing is it's involved in everything. And yet it is minimized to being the sex hormone or to being a part of our libido hormones or to being the hormone that is involved, particularly maybe in mood or PMS. And you guys, it's so much bigger than that. In fact, as a neuroscientist, I would tell my patients, whether it was a parent or a child, that it is estrogen and testosterone that masculinize and feminize the brain. And women are so wildly complicated that we have progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone circulating through our body. So we're actually really difficult to study. And for years, it's actually what moved me into becoming a neuroscientist, is that women were not just small men. There was not enough women represented in neuroscience. And the reason was simple: women were too complicated to study. And so many of the early pieces of data about the masculinization and the feminization of the human brain wasn't based on data with women. It was based on data with men and then presumptions that would be made about how women might respond. So fast forward to 2025, we know too much. One, to watch y'all suffer, especially through something that is very normal and expected, the change and fluctuation and the dropping of those hormones as you go through perimenopause and menopause. And we know too much for you not to know more. Okay. So let's just talk about really quickly what estrogen is involved in beyond just the masculinization and feminization of the human brain. It is involved in the neurology system, the cardiology system, the circulatory system. Of course, it's involved in the reproductive system. It's involved in the lymphatic system. It's involved in the immune system. Estrogen is literally a player in everything that you can imagine. So this makes sense that as you start to see estrogen rates drop as you go into perimenopause and then into menopause, why you might notice a myriad of symptoms that your primary care doctors, your primary physicians, and certainly your family does not necessarily recognize as a symptom related to the menopausal state. In fact, many times what they'll do is look at these symptoms that we're experiencing as if they're in some type of isolation. Oh, you're experiencing depression. Oh, that must be a mood condition. Here's an antidepressant. Oh, you're experiencing sleep difficulties. Oh, you must have a sleep condition. Let's put you through a sleep study. Oh, you're experiencing weight gain. Well, you must be having a metabolism change. Therefore, we're going to put you on a series of, new medications that might facilitate the limiting of food or caloric restriction. Y'all, we are getting misinformation and misdiagnosed for conditions that's actually very normal, menopause. So let's talk a little bit about what happens when we start to see estrogen leave the body. And let's talk a little bit about what Arbonne did with this new launch of the Meno Support to help reintroduce an estrogen-like substance that can help with some of those symptoms. And I'm going to breeze through them. So we know that estrogen modulates the production of activities of neurotransmitters. We've known that, of course, for decades, but like serotonin and dopamine, those are like the feel-good neurotransmitters and the I'm all good neurotransmitters. So that's a bummer when estrogen starts to leave our body, is that we no longer have many of those sensations and feelings. And I mentioned on a previous call that I did, and by that, I mean feelings of calm and feelings of joy and feelings of patience and feelings of relaxation. Instead, we can have those replaced with feelings of depression, feelings of cognitive fatigue, feeling of stress overload, feeling of exhaustion, feelings of frustration. And one of the things I mentioned on a call that I did with Carleeta about 2 weeks ago is something that you all should know. As a mother of teenage daughters, I'm very cognizant about my children's mental health. I also have 2 young boys. But I am well aware that the statistics actually show that it is not my daughters that are at risk of losing their life, it's their mom. You see, the average age of female suicide isn't 15, it's 55. So, you guys, we have to be having this conversation because I'm losing my girlfriends to a battle that they shouldn't be losing the battle to. And so are you, and we're not having this dialogue. And it's not just because we don't feel good. It's literally massive mood fluctuations because, as my friend Tanda Cook says, estrogen has left the building. But it's also a rise in trait neuroticism, which women are higher in trait neuroticism, a rise in anxiety, a rise in depression. It's also involved in cognitive function. We know that estrogen enhances memory, it enhances attention. We know it does a ton for a region of the brain called the hippocampus, which is involved in short-term memory, moving memories from short-term memory into long-term memories, which are all throughout the brain. It's one of the reasons that we know that women are diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and cognitive impairment to about 3 to 1 over men, is because when estrogen leaves our body, we actually start to have cognitive decline. And I'm not just talking about brain fog, I'm talking about legitimate hippocampal atrophy, atrophy to the region of the brain responsible for short-term memory, not being able to take those short-term memories and make them long-term. And I'm telling you guys, I didn't live this long to forget it all. I didn't. And I got lots of life to live. So I'm passionate about this topic because it means the world to me to know that I've got 5 more decades of memories to make. But we know that there are massive changes in the hippocampus and in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the region of the brain that I call the brakes of your brain. You know how the brakes are at the front of your car and it keeps you from running into the car in front of you? Well, the prefrontal cortex is the thing that keeps a good mama from saying something that might be in her brain, which should not come out her mouth. It is the bless your heart part of your brain. It is the part of your brain that basically inhibits certain behaviors. Well, estrogen helps to develop that portion of the brain and to actually help it to function. So when estrogen is no longer a part of the story, the prefrontal cortex, the brakes of our brain don't work as well. And we say and do things that we otherwise would not say and do. Estrogen is also involved in neuroregeneration and neuroprotection. So that's actually the protection of the brain health. And it's a big factor in antioxidant properties in the brain. It supports neurons development and it supports neuron survival. So when I think about the lack of estrogen, I think to myself about what's happening neurologically between my ears in terms of the actual neurons talking to one another. And then estrogen is involved in the stress response. And you guys, I can tell you it's a complicated system where estrogen is involved in this axis called the HPA axis. That's the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. So from brain down to the adrenal gland above the kidneys. Well, when estrogen is no longer being produced by the body, that access starts to go wonky. That's the girlfriend's way to describe it. But here's the problem with stress is when we have high levels of chronic stress over long periods of time because we no longer can manage those levels of cortisol, or we're actually having changes to oxytocin, or we're having changes to insulin, which are also stress related hormones. One of the things that happens is we don't manage stress as well. If we don't manage stress as well, it interferes with libido, it interferes with sleep, it interferes with cognition, it interferes with memory. In fact, chronic stress attacks the hippocampus also. So it's just unbelievable when you look at the system, how it is a full circle. And to lose estrogen and to then have high rates of stress or high rates of cognitive dysfunction, or to have high rates of fatigue and high rates of depression, is to actually watch women walk into a very dark season in their health, physiological health, and their psychological health, which I don't believe there's such thing as psychological health. I think that that's a misnomer that we've made for years. As a neuroscientist, I tell people depression is as physiological as diabetes. Don't get me started, okay? But it is as physiological as diabetes. We've got to stop pretending like this is somehow separate from this. So then when you add to the fact that menopause aids in each of the added contribution of about another 30 to upwards of 300 symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, restless leg, heart palpitations, brain fog, mood regulation, all of a sudden it feels like you are in a coffin, and the coffin is your body. Now, if you are not hit menopause yet, you did not like that analogy, and you are thinking, girlfriend, I am really disappointed I came on your call tonight because you just hurt my feelings. But I am just trying to impart on y'all the wisdom of your neurology, the power of estrogen. I haven't even talked about progesterone, I haven't talked about testosterone, and of course, the necessity of menopause. Because I do understand this is not an accident. These hormones are leaving my body for a reason. I am not an accident. I'm wonderfully and fearfully made. But I am recognizing that when estrogen leaves my body, my experience of symptoms can range and be so difficult for my behavior to be unregulated, and for my cognition to start to diminish, and for my body composition to change. And I mentioned to y'all earlier, we know too much for you to have to suffer in that way. So Arbonne came up with an incredible product, and it's actually a very simple product to take. It's called the Meno Support. Now, I want you guys to know I have studied everything about menopause since the study that was done, what was known as the Women's Health Initiative study that came from Dr. Susan Love out of the University of San Francisco and Stanford, a very, very, very controversial movement in the field of menopause back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. That was a science I ascribed to for decades, basically a science that said that hormone replacement therapy in that season of science and medicine was actually causing a variety of cancers in women. That led women who were over 50, my age, to really start to have questions and doubts, and to basically put the brakes on any form of hormone replacement therapy. I want you guys to know that the data has been revisited. There are a lot of breaks and flaws in that original data. There was also some synthetic hormones used in HRT that was very damaging to human health. And there is no way, shape, or form that today, Mo Boeger of 2025 is going to vilify today's version of hormone replacement therapy as given to you by a holistic practitioner. In fact, I would want you to do your research as to see the efficacy of today's version of HRT, because my opinion has completely changed from where I sat 25 years ago. Because the science today I can believe and I have seen, but sit with your practitioner and have that conversation. Having said that, for me personally, I have still made the decision to not move forward with a traditional HRT regimen today at this moment. And what I love about what Arbonne did is they basically launched a product that is a clinically studied functional ingredient that is an alternative solution to hormone replacement therapy, but it can also perhaps be used in tandem with a traditional HRT program. So that's my disclaimer. I want you guys to know that me personally, This is going to be my answer for now. And up until this point, I was using another brand. So I'm thrilled that Arbonne launched this because, like Carleeta, I am Arbonne through and through. Let me tell you what they put in it. Basically, it's three key ingredients. The first is a patented ingredient known as estrogen 100. The second is a grapeseed extract that is patented as well, beautifully, beautifully studied. And then, of course, calcium and magnesium, which are like the bee's knees for anybody who's a practitioner, and you need to be having calcium and magnesium, but you do need to know there's 7 different types of magnesium. So pay attention to other magnesiums that you might need for your own specific symptoms. But what I want you to know about estrogen 100 is that basically it's like a tincture. The company that developed the product actually looked at 71 different plant extracts, and they concluded that this trio that they put into the estrogen 100 was the most efficacious version of all 71 combinations of plant extracts. They actually put in one of the ingredients is called Wilford's Cynantium root. It's been studied for hundreds of years. Another one is Han Sakdon root, which actually it has a different genus name. It's Phlomis ambrosia on the bottle, but that's what it really is. It's Han Sakdon. And then giant angelica root. Just to know a little bit about the historical and botanical backgrounds about these ingredients, the giant angelica has actually been studied in Korea for over 400 years for menstrual disorders, for fatigues. The Hak Sandan is actually been studied for inflammation conditions, pain relief, and also bone-related ailments. And then the Cynantium root has been studied for a couple hundred years in Asia, and it's a tonic that supports blood and kidney health. But the clinical evidence in a double-blind, totally randomized, placebo-controlled study actually showed that when given just this ingredient, not including the grapeseed extract, which is amazing for heart health and circulation, not including the magnesium and the calcium, heroes for your body. What they showed is that 62% of women who took this had massive improvements in 10 symptoms of menopause. 10 symptoms. Some of those things I mentioned earlier: hot flashes, low libido, mood, brain fog, cognitive impairment, sleep disruption, you name it. And that is really exciting because that's just one of the ingredients in this little guy. I love this product. I'm excited that Carleeta told me that it was time to start studying it, because now here I am beginning my own clinical study of my own body, treating my body like the snowflake that it is, this wildly wonderful original thing, just like you are. And I'm going to use these products for the next 90 days because the clinical studies showed that it was 90 days where you had the greatest level of efficacy. So now I'm going to turn it over to Carleeta because that's the science behind it. And I hope I didn't bore you to tears. I hope you guys became a part of my geek squad, though, because she's going to talk to you about the testimony that she already created before I dove into any of the science.
Well, and it did not take me 90 days, you guys, because I started using this as soon as Arbonne brought it out in June, and we're just now at the end of July, and I've messaged Mo, and we've already done a call a couple of weeks ago because it was so drastically amazing for me and the symptoms I had. I'm going to go back and tell you a little bit about my journey through perimenopause and menopause, because whenever I heard Arbonne talking about, and you guys, you can get this sheet that is Arbonne. They make a sheet on every single product we have. It's called Meet the Product. And they will tell you all the things about what this, basically some of what Mo shared. But you can get this and it will help you. But whenever I heard them describing these things from stage in Vegas, and they were saying, you know, because whenever we think of estrogen, we know about, and menopause, we think about hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, you know, the moodiness, all those things that you hear about women struggling with as we go through perimenopause and menopause. And I was always just like a warrior mentality, like I'm going to battle through all of this. I'm not going to let, you know, this season of life make me crazy, and I'm going to recognize it and I'm going to pay attention. And you know, I'll let my family be the deciding factors of this and tell me if I was, you know, somewhat crazy, gritchy, or whatever that people sometimes go through. But I will tell you, I work so hard to focus on not being any of those things, but I didn't recognize some of the other things that I was experiencing in my body that was real and you could not ignore. And I had no idea it was related to perimenopause and menopause until I started learning more about estrogen after this supplement came out, and I started listening to the geeks that, knew more about estrogen and were helping us understand estrogen for what it really was. Because I will tell you, I was like Mo, the group that, I feel like estrogen had gotten a bad rap because it was the cancer causing hormone, and it fed estrogen, fed cancers and breast cancers, ovarian cancers. And if you had cancer, you should, like, oh my gosh, do not touch estrogen. And I'm not saying that that's not still true for some of you, and you need to talk to your own doctor. This is truly a no judgment zone. And I will tell you, I am medical in background, but I do my very best. And the foundation to your health is always going to be stay healthy. Give your body the nutrients and the macronutrients that it needs in the right amounts to be able to be healthy and to function the way that it was meant to function. And that is our first line of defense, no matter what your season of life you're going through. But then I was doing all of that, and all of a sudden, boom, I started having high blood pressure. And I went to the doctor because it was just a crazy moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I feel horrible. I look horrible, and something's wrong with my body. And they were like, oh, you have hypertension. And because my genetic history was that my family struggled with hypertension and cardiovascular disease, that was what I did. And the doctor celebrated and said, hey, you're 45. You made it till you were 45 and you didn't have anything until then. That's really, really good. And I was like, yay, but I was kind of mad. So I started blood pressure medicine at 45. And then all of a sudden I started having hot flashes and the night sweats, and I'd just be dripping sweat whenever I'd just be having a normal conversation. And I knew in my brain at that point, you guys, just for the simple brain, if you're not a total geek, like I'm pediatric, so I have to take everything down to the pediatric level to help people understand what it is that your body's doing. And I knew in my brain that I had hormones at some point, in our life. And over time, those hormones start to decrease. And here's your hormones, here's your stress. And as my hormones started to decrease and my stress, even if it stayed the same, eventually, sometimes stress starts being more predominant in your life than hormones. And when that happens, then you start having these physiological responses to stress. Because here's stress, and then if you have any extra stress that happens, if anybody is in menopause or perimenopause, and you notice that you have hot flashes when your stress level increases a little bit, just let me tell you, it's because stress goes up, but your hormones are still here. And so that's how I just think of it, as like those weigh scales back in the day when you would, like, weigh, like, and try to balance them out. And I knew my hormones were going down as my stress was staying the same, or depending on life, would go up a little bit. And so I knew that that was what was happening when I'd have hot flashes. I had night sweats. But then there came a season in my life where I started having full blown anxiety. And like I could not breathe. And it happened in the middle of the night one night. And, thank God for my dear husband, who is so kind and sweet and helped me to, undress because I was like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And I literally was stripped down naked. And, I know this is going out to the world. And, I just want to help everybody understand how it felt. I was like, I need everything off of me so I can breathe. And at the same time, I was feeling that physiologically, you guys. In my head, logically, I knew, Carleeta, you have a healthy body. There is nothing wrong with your body that could keep you from not being able to breathe. I don't have asthma. I don't, I didn't have a respiratory condition that was keeping me from breathing. It was just stress and hormones. But at the same time, I could not make my body calm down. And so I went to my doctor. And you guys, I love medicine. I love my doctor. And this is no judgment on anybody. It's just that you need to know what you need to know so that you can be a partner in your health whenever you go to your providers. And I went to my doctor, and she was like, well, here, Carleeta, we give everyone an antidepressant whenever they go through this. And I was like, I think I need my hormones checked. And she goes, well, we know your hormones are down, but this is what we give you. So we don't need to check your hormones. Here, take this antidepressant. And at the time, you guys, I just wanted to breathe. So I was like, okay, fine, give me whatever you got. I took it home. I took it for 4 days. And all of a sudden, I was like, you know what, guys? I'm not depressed. I'm like, literally, I tell everyone, I am like the least depressed person I know. I am in gratitude mode all the time. I mean, and even if I start to do anything, I'm like, nope, What am I grateful for in this? It may be an awful situation, but there's something to be grateful for. And I was like, I'm not depressed. I don't need an antidepressant. So I stopped the antidepressant. And that's whenever I started looking for the natural supplements to start giving my body back what was no longer naturally producing. Because your body is going to start doing that in lots of areas for your life. So I started doing that, and I handled the natural supplements as much as I could. I started feeling better, managing it better. But then all of a sudden, I started having other symptoms that I honestly did not relate to menopause. I started having high cholesterol. And again, I thought, well, that's my genetic family history. I started having super dry eye to the point, you guys, that my macula and my viscera, which are two parts of your eyeball, they stuck together because my eye was so dry. They no longer were like separate units, like working together. They stuck together, and my vision was like this all the time. And I had to wait and see if it would naturally unstick, but it didn't. And I had to have surgery in my eye, and then ended up getting cataracts from that surgery and had to have cataract surgery. And I'm trying to think of all the things that I've had. Dry mouth. Like literally, I was like, ask my husband at night, did I sleep with my mouth open? Because I'd wake up and my mouth would be closed, but my mouth was so dry. I thought, oh my gosh, did I like breathe the air and now I just can't, I have no saliva? And he goes, no, you don't sleep with your mouth open. And I was like, well, I don't know why, but my mouth is so dry. And then I heard Arbonne talking about what estrogen does, and other medical providers, Dr. Tanda Cook, who's a friend of ours that Mo mentioned. And then I was asking Mo, like, what all is this? And they started talking about how estrogen is our friend. And instead of giving estrogen the bad rap and thinking that this is the cancer causing hormone and that we need to be afraid of it, after hearing everything that estrogen does, it's the master lubricant for your body. And when it leaves your body, you become like the Tin Man, and everything needs oil. I started having muscle pain, joint pain. I had like, I was tested for rheumatoid arthritis so many times because I hurt so bad. And everybody, I was just like, well, it's just aging. And again, my parents, both my mom and my dad, struggled with musculoskeletal pain and suffering. And I thought, well, this is just my lot in life, and I better stay healthy so I don't create any extra inflammation in my body, or it's going to be even worse for me than it would be right now. And I can't imagine it getting worse. I had every symptom, and I even told my husband at one point, like, I really am a healthy person. I have an active lifestyle. I'm on the go all the time. I have high energy. And I said, for a healthy person, I have a lot of things that are breaking me. And again, I had no idea with this pediatric brain that it was related to menopause until I heard Arbonne talking from stage, and then the other medical providers that knew more about estrogen than I did, explaining that estrogen is your master lubricant. And when it leaves the body, everything starts to show up and have issues that never had issues before, because estrogen used to be there to help it. And they talk about estrogen being the master protector for your body. And that's why as we age, we start developing all these autoimmune disorders, because estrogen was in the play and they're protecting your body. And then when it leaves the body, now all of these issues that your body can have start to show up. And I was like, at that point, I didn't hate estrogen anymore. I was like, I miss my estrogen. All I want is a little more estrogen. And you guys, I was doing it naturally, but it got to a point where it was not enough. And I did not want to be on an antidepressant. I did not want to be on a sleep aid because I wasn't able to sleep at night. And I did not want to go on gabapentin because I had muscle pain and joint pain and all the things, you guys. I mean, I did not want Ambien. There is a prescription drug for every symptom that you will have during menopause. And if you don't take charge of your body, you will get a prescription, which is fine if you need it temporarily, but every prescription drug has a million side effects to it. And so that's why I'm like, I just want to stay healthy, which is again our number one thing we can do with Arbonne's nutrition products and all that we have there, but then do things naturally if I can. But I did, you guys, start using, and again, no judgment. It's just what I chose to do. I started using some hormone replacement therapy. I do not have cancer in my history. I started on a hormone estrogen patch. I started on some progesterone capsules, and just recently, because I was like, I just want some muscle and tone, I started on a little bit of tiny dose of testosterone. That is my personal story, and I was using this, but the estrogen, you guys, as soon as I started using it, my mammograms that used to be normal every time, all of a sudden they were like, we need you to come back for a diagnostic mammogram. So I went back 1 year, they did the diagnostic, they said, oh, it's fine, you're go. Next year I did the mammogram. Again, they were like, we need the diagnostic. And I'm like, I just did that last year. And I started thinking, they just want my money. It's just, the way they do things. But I'm like, I want no regrets, so I'm going to go get the diagnostic. And I got the diagnostic, and they're like, we think we need to do a biopsy. So just last, I think it was October or something like that, I had a biopsy of my breast. And I had no cancer history in my family, but I was on estrogen. And when I was on that estrogen supplement, I was like, my boobs are big. I don't feel like myself. I had the belly fat, and that's all part of menopause. And I was gaining some weight, even though I had changed nothing in my lifestyle and not much weight. Everybody would look at me and go, yeah, I would love to be you, Carleeta. But for me, I knew what my normal was, and I was no longer normal for me. And that's whenever I started going, okay, how do I fight it? And I kept trying to do more of all the things, more exercise, more eating right, more, and it wasn't helping until I started doing, honestly, giving my body what it needed and giving it the protein that it needed and starting that, but at the same time taking this supplement. And I will tell you, all of a sudden I started like sleeping like a baby. And I was like, I'm sleeping because I'm not hurting. And I walked 10,000 or more steps a day. And I used to hurt through every step that I would walk through. And I was talking to a client today and telling her about this product. And I was telling her all my symptoms. And she was like, Carlita, you are telling my story. You are talking about me. And I was like, this is just what we are experiencing because we have estrogen has left the building. And if we can give our body back, which is what this supplement does, is it has these neuroreceptors that your body has that is waiting for estrogen, but when estrogen's no longer there, it's just there, and now all of these things start to show up in your body. And what this supplement does is, even though it does not have estrogenic effects, it's not going to turn men into women, it's not going to give, feed a estrogen fed cancer or anything. It looks enough like estrogen that it attaches to these neurons in our brain, and it helps your body think, I got my estrogen back. And I feel like I have my estrogen back. And again, this is my story, and it may not be the same for everybody's body, but I will tell you, it was so drastic for me. I was dialing up my friend Mo and going, okay, tell me what the heck this supplement is doing that makes my body feel so much better when I've done everything else that I could think of to try to make my body do well during this season of my life. And you guys, this season of your life is the most amazing season. It breaks my heart to hear Mo talk about how, that the highest rate of suicide is for 55-year-old women. But it's like the perfect storm happens because so many women make being a mom their purpose. And in that season of life, you've lost your purpose because your kids have taken off and spread their wings and are flying in the direction of their dreams, which is what you work so hard to raise them to do. But then when they're gone, you're like, but who am I and what do I have? And at the same time, you've lost all your hormones and you are now like feeling all of these things that I'm describing and then some. Like there's over 300 different things that estrogen does for your body. And when it's gone, you're experiencing all of that on top of feeling like you have no purpose, and life can just become overwhelming and too much. And that is what contributes to the anxiety and all the stressors going up as your hormones are going down. And boom, what is, a consequence of that for some people, it's suicide. And that is where I'm like, I want to shout this message out to the world. I want you to think of everyone you know that's in perimenopause or close to it and menopause state, and tell them that there is a supplement, and start asking questions. Because I will tell you, for me, I didn't go around and complain. My immediate family knew of my aches, my pains, my eye surgeries, all the things. They prayed for me through all of it. But I will tell you, I didn't go around and tell my world, oh, I have this, I have that, I didn't want to add my problems on top of everybody else's problems. And so I just quietly kept my problems to myself. But I will tell you, that's what we are all doing. And we need to instead let people know how you feel and what would you like to change if you could, because those are the things that Arbonne can help answer for you if you will work with a consultant that will let you. There are lots of things that we can do outside of menopause support, like we've talked about the estrogen, I mean, the nutrition line that we can do to help, keep our bodies healthy, to decrease the stress load in that. But there are so many things like that we can do for our nervous system in addition to Minnow support. We have things that you can do outside of Arbonne. You can do things to just stay healthy and do things like meditation and yoga or breath work. You can do the things that help support the brain and the development and the healthy part of our brain. Cardiovascular, you can, we have amazing products that are just around the corner coming. We have omega-3s coming out this next month, tomorrow. And I'm so excited for those from Arbonne to be able to come out. But there's lots of things that you can do to help keep your cardiovascular and your blood pressure healthy. Skin, hair, mucosa. You guys, Arbonne has skin elixir. We can do the right amount of nutrients. I have never in my life gotten the right amount of protein. And just this month, I've done a 30-day challenge where I am making myself get at least 100 grams of protein a day to help me build muscle and keep my muscle, because the older we get, the harder it is to build it and the faster it is we lose it. And if we give our body the protein, we're not going to have the thinning hair. We're not going to have the weak muscles and bones and have the consequences of all of those things happen physically. Gut health, the muscle pain, the joint pain, the libido, the genital urinary, system that we have. All of these things are affected by estrogen, but there are things that you can do that will help support it. And Arbonne has so many things in our Her Core line and beyond that we can use to help support healthy, thriving bodies from every stage of life. And we're a change. We're never going to be the same. Our bodies are going to be growing and changing. I mean, puberty is not much easier than menopause, you guys. If any of you remember going through puberty or having a kid go through puberty, it's not an easy season, and it's just the changes. But the more we understand it and the more we talk about it like girlfriends and supportive spouses and partners, the more we're going to get through this in a positive way, that we are thriving through it and we're proud of it and we're enjoying one of the best seasons of our life. Because this is where women, the lady that I was talking to today, she said, do you know that childbirth is the most dangerous thing that a woman can go through? And that all of a sudden there is a season where women no longer are able to get pregnant, even though men could produce a baby, all day long, all through their life, because it doesn't affect their health. But it's because women need to be on this earth because of the wisdom and the care and the support that they provide this world. And that is what we're trying to do today, is just to give you wisdom and support to understand your body a little bit more and what you can do to recognize it maybe sooner than I did. I know my daughter was like freaking out over menopause and perimenopause, and now she's like, dare I say, bring it on, because I feel empowered to know how to recognize what my body's doing and know what I need to do to take care of it when it happens. And I want that for everyone, not just my child. So I I know I went over probably, but you guys, I have a lot of those symptoms that happened to me during menopause, and I just want you to know that you're not broken. You are just experiencing a normal physiological process for your body. But just like healthy living, there is something you can do about it. And that's what we want you to recognize and to be empowered by. So if you guys have any questions, I can turn off the recording and I'm happy to stay on here and help answer questions if you guys have anything.